What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I am so sorry for the delay in videos, guys. I really appreciate you guys who have stuck around. Continue to subscribe. The channel's growing at a pretty phenomenal rate, and I haven't even put out a video for the past couple of months, basically since I got the Benelli here, and I've been promising to put out a first ride video with it for so long, but it's just been really cold in the mornings here, and in the afternoon, like, I don't know, I just feel like I don't have enough time to really try and get something done that doesn't feel rushed. Here we are on the Benelli TNT. As you guys know, and you can probably hear, I just put the Aero catless mid pipe on here. That was a huge debacle in itself. I ended up actually receiving like a full header system minus the slip-on from the company I had ordered from on eBay for Yamaha MT-09 on accident. So I then had to like ship that back to them, and then they shipped me the right part. And the problem is that all of the Aero stuff comes straight from Italy, so like it took me like a month and a week to finally get the part that I ordered. And I ran it for one day with the stock exhaust system, and it made the bike a little bit louder, but nothing too crazy. It definitely wasn't anything close to what I wanted. So I ended up ordering this M4 replica system from AliExpress of all places, and the Y pipe and the mufflers themselves were like 60 bucks or something like that, but the shipping definitely takes it a little bit higher. The shipping is what they get you on with AliExpress. It's like super expensive for no reason. So the bike sounds super good. Like, it's probably one of the better 4-cylinders I've heard. Today we're just going to kind of talk about the Benelli a little bit, and what it's like to ride, what it's like to own. I don't want to go too in depth because I want to save some things for some future videos, but I definitely have a few gripes with this motorcycle, and there's some things that, you know, I like about it that are okay. Let's kind of go over the first thing that probably anybody would want to know about this bike, and that is, you know, is it powerful? Is it enough? What I can tell you is the bike has plenty of power. It's not slow by any means, but it is not fast. The only way I can really describe it is this bike absolutely needs to be rung to its limit for it to start feeling fast. So it makes all of its power up top. So once you're above like 8,000 RPM, which if you look at the dash there real quick, I mean, you're only 3,500 RPM away from redline at that point. That's where it makes all of its really nice power. So that's where maximum torque starts to come in, and also maximum horsepower. It's all the way at redline basically. And the nice thing about that is that the bike continues to build power all the way up to the next shift. It never feels like it falls off. So when you are ringing it out, you're not ringing it out for no reason. You're getting all of the power, and I mean all the way up to that red line. You just keep pushing it, and it just builds and builds and builds, and next thing you know, you're gonna hit the rev limiter, so you shift, and then it falls right back in that rev range again, and you can just continue to pull, which we'll go ahead and demonstrate up here. But you might notice I'm gonna probably start in like second gear. At first it doesn't seem to pull all that well, and that's the gripe with the power, is basically kind of under, you know, until you hit 6,000 RPM, it kind of feels gutless. It kind of feels like nothing's there, and that's just a problem with the way that 4-cylinder bikes and stuff kind of make power. They're all kind of like that, but this one just especially feels pretty gutless in its own right. So we'll go ahead and we'll do a first gear. As you can see, it's not slow by any means, but it's not fast. It's not 600cc super sport fast. It's just that lack of torque down low that just makes it feel really kind of sluggish. But I've been on the highway with a few Super Sport 600s here recently, and they were doing some pulls, and I kind of just pulled behind them just for fun. And honestly, they weren't getting away from me too badly. Not as badly as I thought they would. So it can definitely hold its own. The other thing I kind of want to touch on while we're on the highway really quick, I know it's really noisy and I don't want to talk too much while I'm on the highway. We'll talk more once I hit my exit. But as you can see, I'm doing about 88 to 90 miles per hour. And it's not a true 88 or 90 miles per hour. I've actually found that this bike's speedometer reads about 10% off. Which is pretty common. I mean, my Z1000 was exactly the same, and I'm not sure if a gearing change would fix it on this bike. From what I can tell, the speedometer signal is actually picking up from the rear sprocket. It's not picking up from the brakes, I don't think, but it's on those bolts back there, so it actually might be off of that brake. But it's not like an ABS sensor because this bike doesn't have ABS. So I'm not sure if changing gearing will affect anything, if I can get it to read a little more accurately, but it would be nice. Because when you're doing 90 miles per hour, you're actually up right at just above 7,000 RPM. And I mean, that's not terrible. You still got, 4,500 RPM or so before you hit redline. It's not like it's like revving its heart out like a little Ninja 300 or a Duke or anything like that. But it would be nice to bring the revs down just a little bit. Beyond that, as far as the gauge goes, it is a little kind of tacky. It looks kind of old and dated, but it does its job. So I don't have really much complaints there. Besides the fact that the gas gauge is the most inaccurate gas gauge I've ever had on a motorcycle to date. My reserve light comes on and starts blinking basically every time I hit about 115 miles. And so I'll stop and I'll go fill it up, and I'll only be able to squeeze in maybe 2.8, 2.9 gallons of gas. And that means that I still had at least a gallon of gas left in here, because this is like a 4-gallon tank basically. So it's very pessimistic when it comes to how much range you have left. So I think we're at a solid point in the video where I can go ahead and ask you guys, if you're enjoying the content of this channel and you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button now, leave a like on this video, share this video. I mean, who else in the United States right now is going to bring you Benelli TNT 600 content? Alright guys, so as you can see, it's nice and sunny out. It's not muggy like it was in the morning. I'm on my way home now. You're not crazy. Little change of scenery. I want to continue talking about this bike, but I just don't want this video to turn into like my gripes and nothing but my gripes about this bike. I really want to save some of that stuff for a different video, but I mean, to continue where I kind of left off at, I think the only other annoyance I can really think of off the top of my head with this bike that I don't care for is the fueling in the lower RPMs, especially when you're in a lower gear like first or second. First especially, and as you kind of go up in gears, it gets a little bit more improved, but it kind of goes in with keeping this bike wrung out. So not only do you need to keep it wrung out to make power, but you kind of need to keep it wrung out to keep it smooth. Right around the 4,500 RPM line, there's just some really kind of roughness that happens with the fueling. The throttle feels really snatchy around that portion, and even if you feel like you're maintaining a pretty steady throttle hand, there's just this kind of like jerkiness that happens every so often. Like right now, it's not really doing it. It doesn't happen all the time. It's kind of hard to explain, but if you've ever had a bike where the fueling is really bad in the low RPMs, the KTM 390 Duke is actually very similar. It has a very snatchy throttle feel in the lower RPMs when you're trying to do like low speed maneuvering in parking lots and stuff like that. So if you know what that feels like, you definitely can tell what I'm talking about. There's just this real snatchy kind of I feel like it would definitely be solved with a piggyback ECU, and fortunately enough, Powertronic actually makes a piggyback ECU for this bike as well. Powertronic's what I used on the KTM 390 Duke. If you're interested in these ECUs, you can kind of get a review about them from me, at least from a 390 Duke perspective. But I would definitely say it's a good ECU all around, and I wouldn't hesitate to buy one for any bike that I own that they're supporting. So, and I know they support a lot of models. They support Kawasaki's, they support KTM, they obviously support the Benelli, like I said. I'm not sure what else they really have. I haven't looked too in depth, but they support quite a few brands out there, a lot of the big name brands and stuff. So, and even some of the smaller ones. So other than the low RPM fueling when it comes to throttle, I would say that I think the throw in the throttle tube itself is a little long for my liking. It definitely feels like there's just a lot, you know. And I'm sure you're actually 100% throttle before you reach the end of the travel on those cables, but otherwise, if you try to max it out, it just feels like a lot of throw. So you kind of have to reach your hand a little forward, you know, and then pull on it. But once you get this motor up there and screaming in its upper RPMs, I mean, it's a fantastic motor. Yes, it would be nice to have a little more torque in that mid-range, but hey, that's the price you pay. And in my opinion, it actually makes the motor a little playful and fun. So on the topic of how good this bike sounds, and I mean, with it being an undertail exhaust, to me it's like damn near deafening, to be honest. I want to go ahead and get a few pulls in, let you guys hear the bike throughout its RPM range a little bit more. So we'll do a little we'll do a few pulls, we'll cut them into the video, and then we'll conclude. Man, it sounds so good. It is not the fastest bike in the world, but it sounds good doing what she does. That's really probably the final point that I would drive across when thinking about buying a bike in this price range these days. I mean, you could get one of these for, I mean, probably as low as $3,800 if you find the right deal. I know there's still a couple of 2017s that are sitting brand new in a dealer near me for like right at $5,000 right now, because they're leftover stock and they need to get rid of them. So I mean, for $5,000 brand new off the lot, to compare this with like a Ninja 650 or an SV 650, you know, all that stuff, I mean, other than the MT-07, I feel like this bike has a lot of value in it, man. I mean, the suspension, it's good. The tires, I'm not a huge fan of, but you can swap them out. The motor, yeah, it's a little anemic down low, but it's a 4-cylinder. It's the sacrifice that you make, you know? A 600cc 4-cylinder is not going to be as torquey as a 650 parallel or a 700 parallel from the MT-07. So, yeah, you're going to sacrifice a little bit of down low torque, but you make up for it in high-end horsepower. But not only that, that sound, man. I don't know if you guys have heard a Z650 or a Kawasaki, you know, style parallel twin with an exhaust on it. They do not stack up to the sound of a 4-cylinder, and there's no way you can make it happen, you know what I mean? You're stuck with that regular firing order parallel twin. Now the MT-07, that's a beautiful sounding bike, but that's because it has that 270-degree crank in it, that cross plane. You know, Yamaha did a really good job with that. I wish that Kawasaki would actually adapt and, you know, adopt that concept. There's other motorcycle companies out there that have. I mean, look at Aprilia with the RS660. That's a 270-degree crank, I believe. The KTM 790 890s. There's quite a few other parallel twins out there. I believe BMW does it with their parallel twins to give them that better sound. But not only that, they get better torque. They get a little more torque out of their motors by doing that as well. So, I don't know, maybe one day Kawasaki will do it, because I'm a Kawasaki fan, man. I like Kawasaki bikes. I've always been Team Green kind of guy. My first real motorcycle that I owned and loved was a Ninja 250R. Now, technically, I did have a Suzuki Katana just before that, but I only owned it for like a couple of months before I decided to get rid of it. It just wasn't the bike for me. And I was still learning, so I ended up getting a 2010 Ninja 250R Special Edition with the Kawasaki KRT Green. Man, that KRT Green, if you don't like KRT Green, man, something's wrong with you. And I mean, the green on this bike's beautiful too. I'm not gonna lie, it's not KRT Green type beautiful, but it looks good. But to conclude, like I said, man, in this price range, this is a hard bike to beat for the money, especially on the used market. Hell, even the brand new market, if you can find one. I know the dealer support is not like the rest. You're not going to get that Japanese dealer support from these big name brands, but if you have a dealer near you and you're interested, I definitely wouldn't shy away from it. I'm pretty happy with the Benelli. Yes, I do miss the power of the Z1000. I think mostly just the torque, but this is a good little bike, and I'm going to be happy with it for a little while. We still got some small modifications to do with it, make it my own, and so on. Still racking up the miles. I think I've already put like well over 1,500 miles on it by now. But yeah, in conclusion, guys, if you like the video, please leave a thumbs up on it. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, hit that subscribe button. Follow me for more Benelli videos. Like I said, who else in the United States of America right now is riding one of these things? So go ahead, I know you want to, hit that subscribe button, man. Follow me for more videos on the Benelli and more motorcycle related content, and I will see you guys in the next video.